So this is how you use bent over rows to build a big and strong back. So bent over rows are a great exercise to build back strength and mass, but for many people, they're gonna feel in the low back or they don't know which variation to do that's best for them. So we're gonna cover that so you get the most out of the exercise. So the bent over row, great exercise, but question is it right for you? And what are the best placements of the hands? Like what should we focus on to get the most out of it? Now I'm gonna start with some coaching cues because here's the thing. When I go and do a bent over row, I'm going to get into a hinge position, and from here, all right, I'm gonna row, and we'll talk about where I should row to, okay? And the thing about this is that most people, when they start doing that bent over row, they're not thinking about their hips and low back, right? They're just trying to row that barbell to their belly button or higher up to the chest. But one of the most important cues here is, imagine that you're pushing the ground away. So I'm creating tension in my hamstrings and glutes, keeping core tension so that my low back doesn't kick in, right? So as I deadlift this, I'm gonna lower myself down, and now I'm pushing the ground away. I'm feeling my hammies, I'm feeling everything, and I'm gonna roll to right about my sternum. And what that's gonna do, again, is gonna stabilize my hips, get more core engagement, so I'm not feeling my low back as much. If your core is not strong enough, if your hips are tight, this is going to be more challenging for you, right? And we'll talk next about what's a better variation in that scenario. Now, another question might be, what do we do, overhand or underhand? Well, the thing about it, you want to look at where does the humerus go. So if I go overhand grip, my elbow is going to fly out a little bit automatically, which means I'm going to hit my mid-trap, my rhomboids, even my traps, right? And that's going to be a better variation to hit the upper back more. And you can see that as I do this row variation, watch where my elbows go. Right, so in that scenario, I'm going to roll closer to my sternum as my elbows drive up, hit my upper back. Now, if I go underhand grip, okay, here, naturally, my humerus is going to stay closer to my body, which means I'm going to hit my lats more. So same thing here. And automatically I feel my lats more. Why? Two things. I'm going to drive my elbow more into my pocket, closer to my belly button, right? And the elbows are going to stay closer. So depending on what you want to hit, you're going to go one of these two variations. Now the thing about building a strong and I'll say muscular back is, here we want to use a good chunk of load. And that's why I prefer for many people the Pendlay row variation or elevated dead stop variation. Because in this scenario, now my low back doesn't have to have all this endurance, and I can start from the ground. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm thinking about pushing the ground away, bracing my core, almost like I'm going to do a heavy deadlift. And from there, and now I'm resetting, right? And again, every time I reset, I can rest that low back. And same thing if I was going to go underhand grip. Okay? So that's why the Pendlay row variation is a great variation. Now, some would say, yeah, but you don't have as much time or attention as you would in a regular bent over variation. But remember, your limiting factor many times is going to be here, your low back, your hips, right? And that's the kicker. Here we can go heavier. You know, once you load this up pretty damn heavy, is the form, are you going to have zero motion of the body? You might have a little bit, right? So you may see this. You can see some motion here. But what we don't want to do is to really jerk that movement and feel it a ton in our low back. If you have shoulder issues, a better variation may be dumbbells, right? Or a neutral bar, right? There's different variations that we can do based on, again, our limitations. And another scenario that I like to use is with the Pendlay is a trap bar deadlift. So with that trap bar deadlift variation, I now have a neutral grip, right? And the neutral grip is the more shoulder friendly. Just like I was saying, hey, you could use, I would say, dumbbells for these variations, also using a neutral grip. And here, less stress on the back again because I can bring that bar a little bit further back, get my brace, right? And again, using that Pendlay variation. Now, could I also use just the bent over variation here? Absolutely. But you have to look at what is the limiting factor, what is the best exercise for you and which part of your back do you want to build. And again, choose the variation. It's going to be the most friendly to being able to have the best form, be able to push the load as much as possible without having those nagging tightness injuries, again, low back kicking in. So use these tips with your next training session. If you're plugging in the bent over variation, again, it's a great variation. You just want to make sure you pick the right one in your program for you. For more tips like this, make sure you follow this channel.